In this video, we are going to continue to look at Trimsheet Maker Pro and its feature set. Specifically, we are going to switch our mode over from simple to advanced. It's worth mentioning that earlier versions of the node had this named standard. Now we have simple, advanced, and pro rather than standard and advanced. So advanced, when I take this node and I switch from simple to advanced, notice right here around the channels, when I enable this, we get a few new advanced features. Those features are the ability to specify a custom start material, which we'll see an example of here in a moment, and then to specify color ID information. For demo purposes, I've gone in and I've set up two Trimsheet Maker Pro nodes. Just to keep things simple, each of these just has 4 materials linked into it. For this first node, I have the color ID channel is set to red. So what is the color ID? Essentially, if we expand this out, our inputs here, and we look, one of those inputs will be color ID, and I can double click on this, and this is what we get. So this is essentially a mapping of each material and where it occupies some space within our texture set. This would be really useful if you have any custom tools where you may want to be able to take the custom ID information and maybe click on a color square and then lay out UVs accordingly. There's some tools out there that do that type of work. So for this first node, that is set to red. And if I go to my second node here, you'll notice that the color channel is set to green. And if we look at that color ID, we get this. So we have this ability here to have 8 materials. Each material now can be assigned up to 8 shades of red, green, blue, or the alpha channel. Now, the other part of the standard node feature set that we get that's not available in the simple mode is this custom start material. So if you have more than 8 materials that you want to put together in a trim sheet, you essentially do this by chaining these trim sheet nodes together. So I'm going to take this second node here and enable the custom start material. And when I do that, you'll see we get this material 0. And the only real difference between material 0 and the rest of the materials is that it includes some bounding box information so that the node knows where the previous set of trim sheet data ended. Now I'm going to go ahead and just hit 3 and just connect this into here, like so. It is worth noting that if this node, I'm going to undo that connection for a moment, if this node was set to simple and I went to do the connection here, it is missing the actual bounding box data, and that's important for stacking this information. So make sure you're in advanced mode or pro mode when you actually chain your nodes together. Now when I do this, if we go back and we look at this node here, we now have the original material plus the material 1 of the second node is now sitting down here. So I can go into this and I could reduce this into something smaller like so. And that'll make more room for my additional trim sheets. Alternatively, we could always go up to this node and we could reduce any of its tiles to give us more room as well. And we're going to go back to our second trim sheet here. And this is what this looks like. Now, if we go and we look at the color ID, you'll see there we go. We have the trims for the color IDs for the first trim node and then the second trim node there. Another useful feature for the color ID channel is the ability to create a mask. Let's say we've put together a trim sheet and then I want to add some additional layer of grunge or some other detail once the trim sheet is compiled. I can do that and I can mask out that result using the color ID. So I'll just go in here, hit spacebar, type in color to mask, and I'm going to select that there. And then we can just take this color input. I'm going to go ahead and hit 1 on the keyboard and we'll just put that in there like so. And then let's look at this input. Then I'm just going to take my color picker and I'm going to pick this red here. This is my output currently. It's going to look like this. And I'm going to change the key type over from RGB to luminance. And now we have a mask for that red. So that is essentially how we can combine multiple trim sheets together to get over that limitation of 8 materials per trim sheet. In the next video, we'll look at the Pro features of the Trimsheet Maker Pro.